Hello, I'm Thomas Haire, Chief Content Officer of the Performance-Driven Marketing Institute, a not-for-profit trade association serving companies in the performance and direct-to-consumer marketing world. Welcome to the latest episode of Take 20, created by the PDMI's Brand Response Council. These 20-ish minute live conversations featuring leaders in the performance marketing world speaking about the hottest topics in the industry are scheduled twice a month. Before we get to today's conversation, a quick housekeeping note. We'll be addressing any questions from the audience at the end of today's session. You don't have to wait to ask them. Utilize the questions tab on your control panel to type and send your question in. We'll be collecting them and we'll try to get to as many as possible in the final moments of the episode. So 2025 is coming to a close. And as always on Take 20, we're excited to welcome experts from 5 member companies, including Take 20 host and Brand Response Council Chair Chris Foster of Modern Postcard, to take part in our annual year-end episode, 7 words or less to describe 2025. Each of the folks on screen today will share a 7-word or fewer description of the year, mine's fewer, followed by a more thorough explanation about what happened for their businesses in the performance marketing industry as a whole during the past 12 months. Looking forward to thought-provoking insights, opportunities to celebrate, moments to reflect. We thank Samsung Ads Dan Grskovic, THOR Associates Fern Lee, Kingstar Media's Mark Orton, and Dish Media's John Rinaldo for stepping up today. 212 Direct's Michelle Green was scheduled to be here, but she ended up having a pitch today, and we all know how important that is to all of our businesses. So good luck, Michelle, and we'll see you another time. Chris, I'm going to let you take it away, and we'll get rolling.
Fantastic. Well, happy holidays to everyone here on the screen, and happy holidays to all of you watching. We hope that it's been a fantastic 2025, and we all hope that 2026 is even better than this past year. So my 7 words or less, I actually cheated a bit because it ended up being 8 words, but close enough. I think we can give Foster a pass on this.
Tom, right?
So my phrase is, the king is dead, long live the king. What that means is that in that idea, whatever is happening now is gone, but there's a succession. And not only do things change, but most importantly, things actually repeat themselves and they move along. So this past year, what I was struck by was the surge of influencer marketing, especially on TikTok, especially on kind of customers becoming advocates. And it reminded me of the first infomercials in the Wayback Machine, where a spokesperson would be the one to carry the message of a brand that people would trust, right? They know and like and trust Suzanne Summers or somebody else to carry that brand message. Well, it's happening in the same way, but just with different people. And it's happening in a more democratized way. So instead of needing, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to develop a product and put it on with a spokesperson, smaller brands can do that now with tens of thousands of dollars or even thousands of dollars by using influencers to promote their brand to the masses. So it's the same idea and it's the same structure and it's the same concepts, strategies, etc. It's just a different way of doing it. And I thought that not only, was this interesting that the patterns have repeated themselves, but they're slightly different. We know that, things kind of come in cycles and return back. So I was really struck by that this year, that throughout all the changes that are happening in the industry, there are patterns that remain the same. They're just reflected in a different way. Call it reincarnation, call it different lives, call it the king is dead, long live the king. But that's the thing that I took away from 2025.
And Chris, you just got it down to 7 words by doing a contraction with the king's dead, not the king is dead.
Thank you. Very good. Very good. I appreciate you, Edo. Anyway, any questions, thoughts on that? Fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Well, Dan Grskovic, why don't we head off to you? You're right to my left.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys for having me. So my 7 words kind of wrapping up 2025 were connected TV cuts through the clutter. For me, as it relates to my business and what I've seen with clients and in the overall market this year, is that they've really leaned into connected TV and what it has to offer to cut through that clutter of the current media landscape, namely fast and first screen. Now, FAST platforms have solidified themselves over the past couple of years as a great linear replacement option with no cost to viewers since they're supported by advertisers, and many services have flourished. They see way less churn than SVOD competitors since there's no subscriptions, and the quality of the content has really improved, with companies heavily funding that programming development. However, FAST platforms aren't immune to the frenzy of the streaming world and how increasingly difficult it is to stand out and capture viewers' attention in order to deliver on the campaign KPIs. From mergers and acquisitions to ad-supported subscription bundles and increasingly expensive ad-free options, to not knowing what service to turn on or subscribe to watch tonight's big game, it's become tougher and tougher on both the viewer and the marketer trying to reach them. And as they should be, the marketer is looking for ways to make life easy, deliver on their clients' KPIs, and find the most efficient way to do that. Well, hey, why not serve your impressions before the viewer spends 45 minutes scrolling on a streaming service for a movie to watch or to figure out who's carrying the big game tonight? So in steps first screen. And first screen placements takes all those factors out of the equation and reach the viewers before they even make their content decision with that first impression on the TV home screen. Now, they are more unique to OEMs and companies selling streaming dongles, but not completely exclusive to them. However, those are the places where marketers are able to truly cut through the clutter and take advantage of that first touch experience with the viewer. So in the past year, I've seen performance clients really lean into them because they're actionable, immersive, they can include the client's video creatives, and they can drive straight to website, microsite, app, or a channel. So they combine a bunch of the attributes marketers are looking for to capture a viewer's attention and provide some actual performance and insights and analytics. The number of RFPs I've received this year and for 2026 has steadily increased, with clients looking for those high impact opportunities. And I think it all relates back to the clutter of the current media landscape and searching for non-traditional ways to cut through it and make campaigns perform. And with modern smart TVs and streaming dongles acting as the hub for all of these streaming services, it's created a perfect environment to help brands stand out with these unique placements, and it has definitely caught marketers' attention.
That's fantastic. I love it. Do you think that that type of strategy works better for some types of categories versus others?
It certainly does. You know, traditionally they've been taking advantage of media and entertainment clients, but we've seen those categories expand beyond just that vertical, and we've seen performance clients really lean into it. You know, the ability to click through some of those ads gives you that actionable insight and that performance and how it's resonating with viewers. So it's a great area to take advantage of that performance clients probably haven't touched many times before.
Mm-hmm. So question for you, Dan, when you're on the phone with clients, are you advocating for this approach, or are you mostly getting requests?
Starts with advocating for sure, right? People have to know what's available out there in terms of their media partners. But with education and, you know, the marketplace catching up to speed with it, it's turned into just original requests, organic requests, you know, without me having to prompt them. So definitely I've seen more clients come forward asking about those placements and those opportunities without me even, you know, having to do the sales part of it.
Excellent. We love those kinds of sales. Fantastic. Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan? Oh, that was terrific.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, you.
On my end.
Right. Down in the corner is John Rinaldo. Go for it.
Find the mute button here. Thanks, Chris. Great stuff, Chris and Dan. 7 words. This is my first time on this webinar, and 7 words sounded easy when we first saw the prompt come through. And it's I've got 7 words written out like 200 times, and then now I wish 7 words, and it's like there's an acronym of words, so I could probably do like 100 acronyms that came out this year. One other thing I'll say is that I'm very impressed. All of this talk till now, we're about almost 10 minutes into the call, and I have not heard the 2 big letters of the year yet, and I won't be including them in my 7 words either.
Yes.
So if they're not mentioned by the next 2, we're halfway through now. We'll be more than halfway through when I'm done, and we may make it through a lot of this without actually hearing about it, which is wild. My 7 words. CTV and programmatic gained while tariffs caused pain. So I got a little rhyme there, not quite the poetic, you know, abstract king, you know, the king is dead, but figured we'd throw a little bit of wordsmithing in there. The year started out with a lot of hype around tariffs, right? Real tariffs that rolled out, threatened tariffs that were rolled back, tariffs that were, put in place and then canceled, and the market reacted to them, both the stock market as well as the media market, throughout probably the first half of the year. And the tariffs had a major impact on a number of verticals, right? Auto, a lot of folks that import product on the performance side. But what it really threw off was the supply-demand economics and kind of that supply-demand dynamic that exists in the performance marketplace. Scatter was slashed in a lot of cases, and that left a lot of folks on the media sales side trying to figure things out, while the clients were being a bit conservative in the beginning of the year. That said, right, the move towards impression-based CTV and programmatic, I think, was accelerated due to the tariff mess, because we were kind of forced to find demand in more places. And Chris, you mentioned democratization from a client side, right, and the ability to onboard an influencer where it would have cost millions of dollars to hire talent in the past. You can get a product off the ground effectively now with a lot smaller of a budget. The same goes on the media side, right, where folks used to be blocked from mass media. They wouldn't be able to run in live sports or in these big, household name networks. But with the move towards impression-based CTV, programmatic, now that brings this mass media to the fingertips of brands, and the small, mid-sized, and a diverse number of direct-to-consumer brands are able to now find themselves airing in high-profile programming, and they're able to do it. I mean, this year, there's been so much that's gone on, right? Between all of the impacts that AI has had on optimization. I said it. I wasn't part of my 7 words, so it doesn't count. Supply path, optimization, all the algorithmic trading, the introduction of agentic trading, which has been kind of a big buzz topic. Mergers and acquisitions in our space, right? The merging of all the kings, right? And on the agency side and the media side, it's been a very eventful year. Live sports is still hot topic, and that's for the reach impact that live sporting events are bringing to the market. And attribution is still kind of the piece that all the agencies are putting together, the secret sauce on how we're going to figure this out and reliably measure across traditional spot-based linear and into the more emergent media types like the first screen tiles Dan was mentioning, as well as traditional TV and the premium types of products that the Dish Media team brings to the table. So big year, a lot going on. Started off rough with the tariffs, but CTV and programmatic gained. So with that, I'll pass along. Thanks all.
I love it. That was excellent, John. Before we pass it on, I want to touch on something that you mentioned with the tariffs. And one of the things that was, I think, challenging for most folks was not beyond just the tariff itself, was the uncertainty around it. So I guess a question for you, John. We know that, consumers don't like uncertainty, and, stock markets don't like uncertainty. Is that the same as you find with media spend, where brands are reluctant to put budget behind media because of uncertainty?
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's happened over the years, in a number of economic scenarios, right? Threats of economic downturns, things like tariffs rolling out. The first things that a lot of times are cut are marketing budgets. As has been studied in a number of university studies and elsewhere throughout the years, that's typically not the best place to cut initially, but it typically is the first place that is. So with uncertainty comes hesitancy to spend, and what gets cut is the scatter dollars that typically create that tightness in our marketplace that keeps everything running smoothly. So yeah, 100%. We've seen things come back, but earlier this year that was certainly the case.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's probably what a lot of folks are looking for next year, is a little bit more certainty. I think that I just don't know if that's ever going to happen now. I think that we are in cycles of uncertainty, whether the letters that must not be named are a part of it, or the way people change their buying behaviors and new technologies come on, I think that I don't think there's ever going to be a cycle of certainty anymore in our space.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my bold prediction for the upcoming years.
Certainty is also relative, right? Like, once you become accustomed to operating at a certain level with a certain level of uncertainty already baked in, you become comfortable, right? And then it's really the disruption or the introduction of a new kind of stimulus that I think kicks off things like a hesitancy to spend or these massive like advertising budgets. But now that we've kind of adapted to the new levels that are just kind of the new norm when it comes to certainty and volatility, I guess, in our realm. So,
no, that makes a lot of sense. All right, Fern, you're next.
So we did a different tact because I knew that everyone was going to talk about CTV and AI. So my quote is very different. So here it goes. Hold on a second. Plan strategically, execute flawlessly, achieve extraordinary outcomes. So THOR this year, we were very fortunate with our actions and outcomes, and led to an unbelievable, unparalleled success for our clients. So the key word for us this year was achieve. So A equals awareness. So consumers today are much more aware through digital transformation, social influence, TikTok videos, and Facebook. These initiatives all spark awareness. THOR's success in 2025 was because of keen awareness and willingness to pivot when we needed to. THOR recognized that the funnel, once a predictable sequence as a path to purchase, is now a living ecosystem. C equals constantly. It's key for the THOR infrastructure that the media, creative, and data teams constantly communicate with each of their teammates. H equals hub. For THOR, this is a central point where strategies, technologies, and communities converge, driving the success of our clients through integrated platforms and data-driven insights. THOR had a strong success in 2025 through all of our hub initiatives. I equals integrations. Very new tactic. We always say, what's old is new again. Integrations have been around forever. It's the way we chose to do it this year. So our integration platform became a key successful touch point for THOR's clients in 2025, from initiatives on Dr. Phil, Sherry Shepherd, Newsmax, and ION, to name a few. E equals engagement. For THOR's marketing initiatives, high levels and audience engagement are key to building brand loyalty, driving conversations, conversions, and sustaining growth in today's dynamic omnichannel environment. V equals versatility. Versatility, in large part, is a key to THOR's ability to adapt to rapidly changing technologies, platforms, and consumer behaviors, ensuring continued success of the dynamic digital landscape. And last is endurance. THOR's team has been successful through endurance and perseverance. The need to have endurance is key to success in an ever-changing climate. So those were our kind of initiatives for 2025, and we were very fortunate.
That's fantastic. Congratulations on an excellent year. I have to believe also, Fern, that, and I'll ask you this because, you have experience in the field, right? Where do you find that beyond all the technologies and the platforms that your insights and the experience where you leaned on that to make a call or make a decision that someone 2 years in the industry could never have made?
So it's interesting, again, going back to what's old is new again. We went back to different initiatives, looking at all of our CRM platforms, looking at data and attribution. What were all the touch points? More A/B testing than we've ever done. We went to actually ABCD testing this year with a lot of CRM initiatives. We decided we didn't want to leave anything on the plate. And with all the data that we have in our hand, we should constantly be touching the consumer over and over again. And that was one of our key initiatives.
That's fantastic.
So you touch on that, like your E for engagement. You're talking about engagement in a time where it's as tough as it's ever been, right? And then you talked just now about, constantly updating and tracking and your CRM and data. So we have a world where there's more data than we've ever had, but it's harder to find the consumer than it's ever been. How are you merging those two seemingly disparate situations?
Very good question. It's knowing, literally understanding the consumer, understanding where they're at, where they came, what portal did they come through, which ecosystem, and touching them back that same way. They're not interested. If they came in through digital, they don't want to hear about linear TV. If they came in through direct mail, they want to be touched very differently. It's making sure that you're understanding what they're looking for. It's understanding that they're leaning in. How important is brand? Brand is everything. It's not just throwing one thing up. Oh, we'll give you a free 30-day trial. Those days are dead. Okay, they're not going to work. It's really proof in the pudding. I want to hear it worked for me. It'll work for you. You know, those are keywords back from the 1980s and 90s when I, first initiated. So it still holds true today.
Great.
Excellent. All right, Mark.
Okay, so like John, I'm going to touch on the tariffs and, what did they cause? And, when John said pain, they did cause pain and they did have a very big effect on a lot of advertisers. So my 7 words would be tariffs shaped how brands marketed to consumers. So, being a, just coming in, and it was a very big political when Trump came in and threw these tariffs, there was a lot of uncertainty, as John alluded to, and, marketers didn't know what to do, what was going to go on, what companies were going to do. And, when you have that level of uncertainty, it really does bring a little bit of a shake to the market. And what do advertisers do and brands do on that? It just leaves that unpredictability. However, it also brings about opportunity as well. So what we did see in a sense of like what they did and what brands and advertisers did, they really, they shaped how they did it. They shaped how they changed and how they marketed to their consumers. There was a very strong sense of patriotism, whether it was in the States, whether it was in Canada. It was, buying domestic, buy us, support home. Brands were doing that. Brands were, if it was in the States, it was like, stamping the American flag. In Canada, it was stamping the maple leaf everywhere. They wanted to make sure that, people knew it was like, support, your local, support homegrown, do that. This is how, this is a reaction and response to tariffs. So it put a big focus on a lot of pivoting. And when it comes into performance media, like there was a lot of, we have to change this, we have to change the ads, we have to change all this to say, how do we resonate with the consumers? When you're a brand and say you're an American brand and you're in Canada, they have to resonate. How do we resonate now? There's no hiding that we're an American brand. If you're a McDonald's, there's no hiding that. However, you can resonate with the consumer and be like, hey, we're domesticated. We source all our local ingredients. We hire, the local population. So, just, having to do those pivots and, bringing that into the fact, it really, shaped how we had to market and, just reinforce that fact. It also created just a lot of challenges, on expanding into new markets. If you're a brand and you want to go into the States, it's like, okay, well, now we have all these tariffs. How do we do that? So that really created challenges. So it just, with all the unpredictability, you just look forward to the future and what does the future hold? Now, moving forward, it might not be tariffs that affect it. Could be something else. Like, there could be all these different economic factors that just can come out of nowhere and then force brands to pivot on this. So whether it's tariffs, maybe it's something new down the line, brands just got to be ready to, change at a whim if something does come up.
I like that. I think that, pressure makes, organisms adapt. And there's no reason why that natural law doesn't hold true for brands as well. One question that I have, and this is, it's a question that no one has a real answer to, but just has an opinion on. One of the political justifications of the tariffs was to, bring back quote unquote American manufacturing and to drive kind of American made products. It did create a sense of, some type of patriotic perspective or lens on brands. Mark, you touched on it. I'd love you to dive deeper. Did that go many ways? Did that go within American brands and the Canadian brands? Did the creation of these tariffs have an unintended consequences of increased patriotic feel for the brands themselves, and they needed to use that as a promotion?
Of course, like we just saw so many brands, if they were a Canadian brand, you just saw them reinforce that, we are owned and operated Canadian. You just saw that, and you saw that patriotism just come up. Now you did see brands, like I said, like I referenced McDonald's, and I think Heinz and Kraft had a good one. They did not hide that they weren't a Canadian brand. They came out and they pivoted and said, everything we grow here and we make here and we produce it here. So we're technically a Canadian company. We're just another entity with that on it. So there was a lot of patriotism, whether it wasn't in the States, whether it was in America, whether it was even abroad in, say, Europe. It just, it created so much instability in the market and the volatility of, hey, how do we expand and go that. it it has calmed down a lot now, but and it has leveled off, but we just it gives that sense of unpredictability for the future on what's next.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? What I think is so fascinating is how business and markets react just like natural organisms, because it should, because they're driven by people. Whenever the change shows up.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes down to, like just what's next. It's like, okay, like, I don't want to bring it up, but it's like, the COVID pandemic happened and now it's tariffs. So there's always something going to happen that brands need to be, just on the lookout for, that will just come out of left field and, throw out how you have to pivot into something else.
100%. The only thing that we can be uncertain about is uncertainty. The only thing that remains the same is change. Tom, you're going to clean it up for us. What do you got?
Well, thanks for everyone for teeing me up here, because that's exactly what I've got. I was working on my column for our last magazine of the year, which will be out next week, and I landed on 5 words, not 7. And those 5 words are: volatility is the new normal. And I say that way because since the beginning of the pandemic, I must have heard those 5 words posed as a question dozens of times. Is volatility the new normal? We've talked about it over and over in member council calls. We presented panel discussions, both online and in person, trying to answer the question. The question's answered. 2025, the question has been answered, and it's a big yes. We've heard it from you guys today. The shifting landscape of performance media, the growing scope of ad tech and measurement questions, divided consumer attention and response mechanisms to their expectations for immediate satisfaction with new purchases. Direct consumer brands and the vendors who serve them face new and different challenges every day. I'm not even getting at technology, AI, which has now been mentioned 3 or 4 times, AI, machine learning, all of these different things. And also, that's not to mention just everything, the volatility and uncertainty of the economic and political realms that affect our everyday lives outside the workplace. It feels like there's a lot of pressure and uncertainty around us all day, every day, and that's very tough. It's tough to make your business work. It's tough to make your family work. It's tough to make a lot of stuff work when there's that level of uncertainty. So we look at now, from how the PDMI can do work here and help ease the strain, try to create a place where we can all come to understand volatility and the next steps. And what we can do is, we can keep trying to give you the best information, insights, opinions, and data that can help make your role in performance marketing more clear and more valuable. In our Take 20 series here, we do this every 2 weeks through the pages of results, our quarterly publication. We do it every quarter at our in-person events, the conversations that happen both on stage and off. We try to open and foster the kind of dialogue that can gain you the knowledge to navigate the changing tides of the business. So that's what we do. That's our role. And from the ongoing changes across the performance media marketplace to the growing importance of machine learning and AI technology, everything else that's happening, we're excited to tackle these topics in the coming year. It's our job to help the industry sail through the swirling winds that are buffeting it. We're proud to do it, and we're happy to take on that role and help lead everyone forward as we head into 2026. That's
I love it, Tom. That's a fantastic way to close. And I actually want to touch on what Fern had mentioned earlier. With all the volatility and all the uncertainty, customers and folks want to hold on to a brand that they trust. And Fern, you talked about brand as everything, right? The fact that a brand is something that could be reliable, that can be consistent, that can be something that I believe in, and something that if I believe in that brand, I'm going to be rewarded with my belief, because the brand's going to be reliable and something I can be certain about. So I thought that was awesome. And then to tie it to just what Tom said, Tom, you just nailed it. That's the brand of PDMI. That's the certainty of PDMI in terms of giving the education and giving the dialogue and conversation about all the uncertainty around us.
Right.
So it's wonderful.
Well, thanks, Chris. I will say, touching back to my previous column in September, like, things don't work if we don't work from a basic set of facts that we all agree on, right? At the very starting point. And so if we don't all agree, like, what the base idea of what performance marketing can be and what the starting point is, then we're not going to make it much of anywhere. And that's true for all facets of life. Certainty, certainty, volatility, all these things, but we got to start from this. The key is to start from the same point of reference, and that's kind of the PDMI's job, is try to give us all that same point of reference to work from. So, thank you all. Thank you, Dan, Chris, Mark, John, Fern. We really appreciate it. Thank you to every single person who's appeared on a Take 20 in 2025. Can't believe we've run through another 24, 25 episodes here. We're excited to keep it going in 2026. It'll be year 6 of the Take 20, and we're fired up for it. So the next episode is set for Wednesday, January 7th, when we kick off a new series about media optimization with a conversation about ad tech opportunities. Please visit thepdmi.com/take-20 to register for the webinar and check out the upcoming schedule. Online registration for our 2026 in-person events, PDMI East, April 13th through 15th in Miami, and PDMI West, October 19th through 21st in San Diego, is open now. And through December 31st, that's 3 weeks from today, you can get your 2026 event badges for our 2025 prices. That's just $395 for PDMI members and $595 for non-members. Badge prices are going to go up on January 1st. I'll be up bright and early to do that with online. Lucky me. So make your plan and save today. Visit thepdmi.com and navigate to our East and West pages to get your badges now. Thanks again for checking out this episode of the PDMI's Take 20. Happy holidays, wherever you celebrate, and all the best for a tremendous 2026. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.